Mother 3 is an underrated gem for the Game Boy Advance, as well as being a part of the not well-known Earthbound series and only be released to Japan. Not many got to play it. But the fact that Mother 3 did get released is the most surprising, for its 9-year development process being cancelled and being revived on the Game Boy Advance. It was a complicated process that Nintendo did not want to abandon. So join me as I talk about the development of Mother 3 and the story of Earthbound 64. Mother 3 began development as soon as Mother 2, otherwise known as Earthbound, released in Japan in 1994, but the development was not announced until 1995, and it was being developed for the Super Famicom. The project proved too ambitious for the system and was moved to Nintendo's up-and-coming system, the Nintendo 64 Disk Drive. Now you may ask, what was a Nintendo 64 Disk Drive? Well, it was an add-on to Nintendo 64 that allowed online play, downloaded games, and you could email other players through an internet connection. But what was the main focus though was the ability to play CD-based games, which allowed for more space, better sound quality, and cheaper production costs. The problem for the disk drive is while it had rough production of multiple delays and the poor sales led to it becoming one of Nintendo's biggest failures. Multiple games were announced for the disk drive, including Kirby 64, Paper Mario 64, Pokemon Stadium 64, Animal Crossing 64, The Legend of Zelda Majora's Mask and Ocarina of Time, all which never saw the light of day on the disk drive. Development teams seeing the failure of the disk drive poured these games over to cartridges to get them released, and in the summer of 1999, Mother 3, The Fall of the Pig King, was moved to the Nintendo 64. The game would contain 12 chapters, Rumble Pack compatibility, and would be priced at 6,800 yen, with a May 2000 release date. It seemed pretty solid and people were getting ready for it. Nintendo Power was even making scans of the game, listing it as Earthbound 64, saying it was 55% completed. But wait, if your game was going to be released in 1 year and it was only 55% completed, well, how are you going to get it done? Well, on the outside, Mother 3, The Fall of the Pig King was coming along, but in reality it was going through development hell with really rushed production and a deadline they could sadly never meet. The same year at Nintendo Space World event, Mother 3's first trailer was revealed with a playable demo for those who attended the event. Now it was very hard to find footage of Earthbound 64. Sure, I could find the original trailer thanks to IGN's archives. Have you ever realized how old IGN actually is? They were recording stuff back in the 90s. Moving on, other than finding a lot of screenshots and the trailer as aforementioned, I did find a 5-second clip which did show a character that really looked like Ness running through a forest. And the only information I could find on it that it was a placeholder for Lucas because his model wasn't programmed. But on screen you can see what Lucas was originally going to look. And I'll have a side-by-side comparison of the two characters. Sadly, the next year, August 22nd, 2000, Mother 3 was announced to be cancelled. The reason was the rough development, as I mentioned before. The team of, I'm probably going to pronounce this wrong, Shigeto Itoi had no experience working on 3D games and was having issues with the Nintendo 64's hardware. It was even rumored that the Pokemon Stadium team had to join the development to make the game look better and help create assets for the game. The game was finished in 2000 but was delayed because too many bugs and glitches, even if most of the programming was ready. And with the Nintendo GameCube being ready to release next year, the project was just dropped right there. As far as we know, the existence of Earthbound 64 has been destroyed or at least locked away. We have many screenshots of the game, but we don't have any playable demo or anything. So sadly, as for right now, that was the end of Earthbound 64 and Mother 3. Until 2003, Mother 3 talk and Earthbound 64 talk has been relatively silent, until Mother 1+2, which was a port of the two first Mother games for the Game Boy Advance, started making headlines and talk of Mother 3 started up once more. In June 2003, Mother 3 has reached the popular video game magazine Famitsu's top 11 most wanted games, and soon enough it was rumored that Mother 3 would be coming to the Game Boy Advance. Shigeto Itoi was also writing a new script for it, and he was stating they had to write a new story for it and cannot use Earthbound 64 as, quote, "it was too dark and mature for the Game Boy Advance." and the new script was almost done, being 60% completed. Finally, cut to November 7th, 2005, Shigeto Itoi and Nintendo announced Mother 3 for the Game Boy Advance with a 2006 release date, and that the game was almost finished. Finally, after so long, Mother Advance has something to look forward towards, as the third Mother game they've been waiting for back in 2000 was coming out. Receiving high review scores such as 35 out of 40 from Weekly Famitsu, Mother 3 released in Japan on April 20th, 2006, going on to sell over 200,000 copies in the first 3 days. And as a closing note, Mother 3 is announced to be the last game in the series, and there were no more plans for a Mother game, except for Mr. Saturn's platformer, which never came to fruition. Now, for all that said, what about the rest of the world? When will everyone be able to play the acclaimed best RPG on the Game Boy Advance, one of the best games in the world? Never. Nintendo of America or anyone had no plans of porting the games over to the States, as Earthbound on the SNES sold horribly due to terrible marketing. If people wanted to play it, they would need to import the game and know Japanese. But in 2008, one group of fans released a fully translated version of Mother 3 to the internet where people could play Mother 3 in English to their heart's content. Now I think there's a high possibility Nintendo still might release an official translated version for the Nintendo Switch, as they did release a translated version of Mother, which was Japan exclusive, to the Wii U. It would be a great way to push their new plans of the Virtual Console, and if they don't, there's going to be a link in the description below to play a translated version, as I highly recommend you play Mother 3. It has such a gripping story, lovable characters, and quirky humor. Mother 3 is truly a gem that any gamer should play on the Nintendo Game Boy Advance. And that was the development of Mother 3 and Earthbound 64. I would want to see a prototype of this dark and mature 3D Earthbound game, but I don't know if I would give up what we got in the end to play it. Well, I have been Cybershroom bringing you the missing bits of Earthbound 64. If you want to keep up with me on Twitter, link is below. We can chat, you can ask me questions about the production of this, or if you want to see me do a certain game's missing bits or review, you can go tell me there. As always, I hope you have a good one.